Hello and welcome to the channel. As always, like the video, and if you enjoyed the story, leave a comment on if you would want more. This fan fiction was not created by me, but in the description there is a link to the fanfic so you can show your support to the creator and read along. Without any more delay, let's dive into the story.
Izuku watched in abject horror as the hooded stranger reached out for Ochako's face. There were many dangerous quirks scattered around the world, a lot with different ways of activating. But, as a general rule of thumb, a good 80% of quirks that affected another person required direct, physical contact, the other 20% sometimes required blood, or a simple response. But with that information in mind, Izuku watched the stranger's dry pale hand thinking only one thing: I can't save her. The black hooded stranger stopped. Huh? Another challenger has appeared? He turned around, prompting Izuku to follow his line of sight. Staring at them with furious red eyes, Shoyuta Aizawa stood at the end of the hallway. The bandages that usually rested around his neck were wrapped around the black haze's body, which was revealed to be wearing a waiter's outfit. I didn't want to battle any bosses yet. Kurogyri. Why is there a mini-boss here? The villain next to Izuku and Ochako stopped reaching out towards them and started complaining to his bound companion. Tamura. You need to deal with the children. Izuku saw a pair of yellow goggles around his homeroom teacher's neck and immediately recognized his hero identity, Aizawa-sensei. You're Eraserhead. Right now that's unimportant. Midoriya. Uraraka. Go get the rest of the teachers. I won't be able to hold back both of these villains at the same time. Yes, sir. Izuku, still leading Ochako by the hand, ran away from the fight. Despite what he said, Shoyuta was actually doing an extremely good job at holding back both of the villains. He had Kurogyri tied up, lying on the floor, and he had Tamura's quirk disabled. He was also violently lashing out at the villain with his bandages in an attempt to restrain him. Tamura, we may need to retreat. If the other teachers arrive, we won't be able to win. Run away? I don't want to. Tamura scratched his neck absent-mindedly while leaning away from Eraserhead's attack. Think about this. We need to escape. Kurogyri yelled at Tamura. Tamura hit his hand onto his palm. I've got it. How about I kill those two mobs that just ran away? Then we can continue without interference. Tamura's arms were suddenly constricted to his sides as one of Eraserhead's attacks landed. Where do you think you're going? Shuta's red eyes were threatening enough to strike fear into the hearts of the strongest villains, but not Tamura. Their wrappings are annoying. Kurogyri, teleport me to the brats that ran away. Shoyuta turned to prevent Kurogyri from teleporting Tamura, but as soon as he wasn't looking, Tamura used his quirk to disintegrate through the bandages that Aizawa had used on him. Darn it! Shoyuta tried to retrain Tamura again. Not so fast. Kurogyri's hand shot out to warp Shoyuta away. I'm sorry, Midoriya. You need to deal with him yourself. Shoyuta clenched his fists in anger at his own incompetence. Deku-kun. Where are you going? Ochako struggled to keep up with Izuku's desperate dash for help. We need to find one of the teachers. Aizawa-sensei's quirk won't be able to hold them back for very long. Izuku yelled back as he opened the door to the staff room. Well, what about All Might? He was just here a few minutes ago, right? Ochako said, gasping for breath. Unlike some people, she did not go through a 10-month physical training regime designed by one of the most muscular men in Japan. All Might? Izuku thought for a second. All Might rushed out of the room pretty quickly, so he might be busy. What can he be busy with that is more important than villains breaking into the building? The student's conversation was cut off when Tamura came around a corner and lunged at Ochako with an outstretched hand. I found you. Ochako. Izuku used his quirk on Tamura, redirecting the attack onto himself. Izuku then balls up his fist and punched Tamura with all of his might. Tamura, who didn't expect the extra force or the push, flipped over Izuku and landed behind him on his back. Ah. A sneak attack. That's why I shouldn't underestimate weak mobs. They can still get critical hits sometimes. Tamura stood up, unfazed. Deku-kun. What should we do? Ochako asked nervously. We need to incapacitate him. We won't be able to run away. Oi, oi. Don't talk about your plan right in front of your opponent. Tamura's eyes held a psychotic glint in them. They were the eyes of a murderer. Ochako, we need to run. Right. Ochako understood his request and quickly used her quirk on the green-haired boy, who in turn, wrapped his arm around her waist and pulled them away with his quirk. Oh. You two have some impressive speed stats. Tamura noted gleefully before vanishing in a blur, but you're still not fast enough. His voice came from in form of them. Darn it. Izuku lashed out with a kick. Tamura raised one hand and caught the kick easily. Ah. Is that all you got? Izuku's pant leg began disintegrating into ash, and here I was hoping for a bit of a challenge. Ah. Izuku cried out in pain as his skin began turning into dust and flaking away from ankle. Oh whoa whoa, yeah. Tamura lost his grip as he was knocked away from the two students by a sound wave so loud, it was visible to the naked eye. I don't know how it works either. What have you done to my cute listeners? President Mick's voice was very calm, but his eyes held a sea of rage. What is with these hallways and their high encounter rate? Tamura asked no one in particular from his position on the ground. Mike-sensei. Ochako called out desperately, Deku-kun is injured. Go down that hall and turn right, you'll find the teacher lounge, go in, close the door, and lock it. Don't open it until the alarm stops ringing. President Mike didn't once take his eyes off of his opponent. You two did well escaping so far, now let me handle this game-obsessed freak. Ochako nodded her head in confirmation and picked up the now weightless Izuku. Good luck, Mike-sensei. No. I don't want to hear a good luck. President Mike turned and smiled at them. I want to hear a AW yeah. Izuku and Ochako smiled at their eccentric teacher. Ah yeah. President Mick's smile couldn't be any bigger now. He rolled his neck. I feel like I can take on an army. Ochako ran away with Izuku in her arms while President Mike used his quirk to yell obscenities at Tamura. Ochako held the rapidly reddening cloth over Izuku's leg. During their brief spar with Tamura, the villain used his disintegration quirk to dissolve a section of Izuku's ankle. Don't worry, Deku-kun. You'll be just fine. She reassured her injured friend. I am alright. Izuku had tears forming in the corners of his eyes. Ah. You're crying. I'll get some bandages right away. Ochako stood up. Wait. It's not that. Izuku stopped her, it's just. Eraserhead usually battles alone at night and President Mike has been teacher for the past few years, so I haven't really had the chance to watch either of them battle, and it was a good chance to see their fighting styles dash. That's what you were crying about. Ochako stared at him. You are literally missing part of your ankle. How are you thinking about heroes right now? Izuku blushed and looked at the ground. Deku-kun, just wait there and I'll find some gauze. Thank you. Oh, Ochako. Izuku's face went red as the blood flowing out of his leg. Ochako grinned. No problem. Kirojiri was in a predicament. He was being dragged across the floor by a pro hero without being able to use his warp quirk. His partner Tamura had run off after two small students, and judging by the swear words that could be heard all across the school, he had run into the voice hero, President Mike. The pro hero that had captured him was Eraserhead. His quirk allows him to temporarily erase the quirk of anyone he stared at. His hair, which had been defying gravity and falling upward, fell back down into its normal shaggy position. But just as fast as it fell, it suddenly stood back up. Oi, villain! Who sent you here? The hero asked. Kirojiri averted his eyes. You know, even if you don't talk here, you'll still have to talk eventually. Eraserhead's hair fell again. Check. Kurogiri activated his quirk and made a warp gate beneath Eraserhead's feet. Shoot! Shoyuta Aizawa fell through the gate and appeared outside of the building. Kurogiri closed the gate and cut off the bandages that were still wrapped around him, now to get Tamura. Present Mike was still screaming profanities at Tamura. Tamura! We need to leave, the reinforcements are coming. Ah! It looks like a game over. Let's go home. Kurogiri opened up a gate for Tamura to walk through. Like I'll let you escape dash. Present Mike changed his sentence into an attack. The soundwave shot towards the two villains. Kurogiri, use mirror move. Tamura yelled. Tamura, please do not treat me like one of your video games. Kurogiri responded while forming a warp wall that Present Mike's attack hit directly. It then came back out right being him, hitting him in the back. The two villains then left, leaving an injured Present Mike in their wake. The next day. Then we all heard someone swearing at the top of their lungs. And during the brief pause, Bakugo used an explosion to get everyone's attention. Then he yelled dash. Shut the hell up. You've told this story a million times. Katsuki interrupted Kaminari's retelling of what happened during the day before's lunch period. Sorry. Kaminari replied with an unapologetic expression. So it was just the mass media? Jiro Kyuka, one of the girls listening to Kaminari's story, asked. Yup. There was nothing to worry about. The door slid open, gaining all of their attention. In walked Izuku with his ankle in a cast. Class 1A burst into a state of chaos. Midoriya-kun. Are you alright? Shoot. What happened, man? Deku-kun, how are you holding up? Are you okay? Midoriya-chan? Ah. I'm fine. Izuku quickly reassured them, just an injury during yesterday's mayhem. Aizawa had told them to keep quiet about the villains breaking in, he didn't want the student base to freak out. Alright, everyone return to your seats. Aizawa had returned, Class president, go ahead and take these papers to the office. Excuse me. Sensei. We never chose a class president. Ida stood up and informed the homeroom teacher passionately. Oh. Everyone play rock paper scissors until there is one person left. Go ahead and use any methods you want, I won't care. Izuku watched all of the other rock paper scissors matches progress. He had been wiped out in the first round by simple means, and now he was very glad he did. They were no longer playing rock paper scissors. Take this. Kaminari yelled as he electrocuted Kirishima, who was about to beat Kaminari's scissors with rock. Is this really okay? Ida asked. He had been paired against Mina, who had said that she didn't want to be president and would use rock. She used scissors. I'll allow it. Aizawa said sleepily. Rock. Paper. Scissors. Shoot. What the heck? That has to be cheating. Mineta yelled out angrily. He had been paired against Shuji, a boy with 6 arms. I'll allow it. Aizawa repeated. The game progressed smoothly, Shuji being taken out by Momo, a girl who created 10 of each item, who was in turn taken out by Katsuki, who blew away all of her creations with paper, and a rather large explosion. We have come down to the final match. Katsuki Bakugo vs Mina Ashido. Kaken has won most matches by threatening his opponent, while Mina has won relying on deception and luck. Who will take on the job of class president? Uraraka-san? Why are you announcing? Me? Well, it seemed like fun. Rock. The entire class turned to the last 2 opponents. Paper. They all held their breath. Scissors. Katsuki's eyes held a fire in them, Mina's eyes shimmered mysteriously. Shoot. Katsuki used paper and unleashed a large explosion at Mina. Mina, with her insane reflexes, leaned backwards and avoided the blast. Her hand was mostly coiled with the pointer finger and thumb raised. Gun? The whole class asked in confusion. Matt, why not? Aizawa gave her the green light. Yay! I won! Mina jumped for joy. Darn it! Katsuki screamed in rage. Well, let's get along. Vice President. Mina reached out her hand. Curse you! Katsuki growled while glaring at Mina. Good. Now both of you take these papers to the office. Aizawa handed then a stack of papers. Huh? It was then that Mina realized that the class president had to work. No. Please someone trade with me. That's no good. You two won. Now get those papers to the office. Aizawa's red eyes were threatening enough to scare All Might. Yes. Mina and Katsuki said submissively. Ochako held her hand over her mouth to prevent her lunch from spilling across the bus floor. Are you all right? Uraraka-san? Izuku asked nervously, handing her a bucket. I'm fine. She replied nauseously, I'm just naturally susceptible to motion sickness. That's strange. I thought if you were already used to being nauseous from using your quirk you would have somewhat of an immunity to regular motion sickness. Well, feeling weightless and moving around are different kinds of stimuli. Hey lovebirds. Kaminari leaned in from the seat behind theirs. Class 1A was riding on a bus to go to some form of rescue training. Lovebirds? Izuku asked, his voice cracking in the process. Ochako on the other hand, did not hear, due to the fact that she was quietly puking into the bucket. Well, isn't it obvious? Kaminari asked, I mean, you two are nearly joined at the hip, you both seem to be paired up in all of the events we've had. What? No, we haven't. Izuku quickly denied. Seating arrangement, All Might's hero training, present mixed English conversation class, ultimate frisbee after school. I don't see what ultimate frisbee has to do with anything. Well, I'm just saying, you two are already marked as the class couple. You even have matching emblems on you hero costumes. Kamari pointed to the bunny symbol on Izuku and Ochako's shoulders. There's AAR reason for that. Izuku's speech was slowly breaking down, YUSC. WEBB both H have T than BB because dash. Because they're cute, right? Ochako joined their conversation, feeling slightly rejuvenated after emptying her stomach. Uraraka-san. Izuku jumped at her sudden recovery. H, how much of our conversation did you hear? Just the part about the R bunny crest. Why? It's nothing. Izuku quickly covered up. Kaminari began snickering. Everyone. Most of the class ignored Mina's voice. Hey. Class. No one paid attention to the class president. Mina whimpered, why is no one listening to me? Shut the hell up, you seslesadots. Rakunia Sheshasamestipid announcement. While the class president was ignored, the same could not be said for the vice president, who easily got the attention of the rest of the class. Yeah. I believe I'm supposed to run you guys through the emergency escape protocol, in case there's a fire, or an earthquake, or a villain attack, or a typhoon. Mina started listing off. Don't worry. You don't need to do that. Aizawa said from his position on the floor. He was once again wrapped up in a poofy yellow sleeping bag. But dash. We won't need the safety protocol, and besides, we're already here. Aizawa somehow stood up and shed his protective layer. President, lead the way. Let's go everyone. Mina yelled. The location that they went for training looked very much like a theme park. It had different zones, colorful walkways, and a mascot character. Hello class and welcome to the Unseen Simulation Joint. Or USJ. A short man wearing a sort of astronaut outfit said cheerily. Izuku gasped in surprise, it's Dash. Number 13. The gentlemanly hero that utilizes his quirk in many scenarios to save people. While he isn't very good at fighting like All Might or Eraserhead, people say due to his high intellect and precise use of his quirk he saves nearly as many people a month as All Might himself. Ochako squealed. Ochako! Are you alright? Jairu grabbed Ochako by the shoulders. What's wrong? Have you been spending too much time around Midoriya? Since Jairu Kyuka sat directly in front of her, the two of them has gotten pretty close. Huh? And no. Of course not. I've just always liked number 13 a lot. Ochako's response fell on deaf ears. Ochako. You stuttered. Okay, that's it. Jairu rounded on Izuku. You will stay at least 2 meters away from Ochako at all times for the rest of today. I don't want you corrupting her. See, corrupting? It's fine. Kaminari slung his arm around Izuku's shoulders. You can hang out with me instead. I'm confused about what's going on. Ochako muttered to herself as she looked back and forth between Jairu and Kaminari. Today we will be preform rescue simulations. Number 13 regained the attention of Class 1A. USJ is divided into 6 zones that are all connected by a central plaza. The Ruins Zone, Landslide Zone, Mountain Zone, Conflagration Zone, Flood Zone, and Downpour Zone. These areas were created so that students could practice rescuing people from natural disasters. Eijiro Kirishima raised his hand. Excuse me? Yes, Kirishima? Number 13 answered. What is the middle zone? Miasma or something? He was gesturing towards the central plaza where an ominous black mist was forming. Everyone get back. Aizawa's usually lazy voice was brisk and serious. Those are villains. Surely enough, people began walking out of the mist. Kaminari. Yes. Contact someone at the school. We need backup. Yes sir, wait. I can't make connection with anything. My signal is jammed. TCH, they've thought this through. Ida. Kuda. Yes sir. The passionate Tenya Ida and the silent Koji could have both stood at attention. Ida, run back to the main campus. Kuda, I want you to try to contact the school with a carrier pigeon. Kuda's nodded. His quirk allowed him to talk to animals. Yes sir. Ida activated his engines and began running towards the gate. Quickly everyone, get ready to defend. From the looks of it, a lot of the villains are weak pawns with no real impact on the story. What is that supposed to mean? Number 13 asked. Right now it doesn't matter. Aizawa took the pair of goggles hanging around his neck and put them over his eyes. Right now we need to stick together and defend ourselves. Aizawa was cut off by a black portal appearing beneath him. Instinctively he jumped backwards. Very nice. You have much better reflexes than when I battled you before. Kurojairi sounded impressed as he rose out of the portal. I merely underestimated you. It won't happen again. Aizawa yanked on the bandages around his neck as his hair floated up out of his eyes. His eyes turned red behind his goggles as he disabled Kurojairi's quirk. Ha ha ha. Man. You heroes really are pretty dumb. The villain's quirk faded away, and standing in the black mist's place was a black-haired man wearing an orange t-shirt and beat-up jeans. I ain't Kurojairi. My quirk just lets me look like other people. He laughed some more. You'd do well to remember my name. For I am Dash. Aizawa grabbed the guy and flung him into the ground, knocking him out. But it was too late. Aizawa-sensei. Eraserhead spun around and saw all of his students being consumed. Kurojairi's warp portals. Senpai. Number 13, who wasn't able to activate his quirk without hitting the students, called out for help. He was scratching at the ground uselessly, trying to not fall into Kurojairi's portal. Number 13. Eraserhead threw out a bandage and pulled his junior out of the portal. Number 13 got up and brushed himself off. Thank you, senpai. But all of the students have been captured. It will be fine. Aizawa turned to Kurojairi with his furious red eyes. Those kids will be alright. They may not look like it, but they're all very strong. I hope you're right. Number 13 said as he raised his fingers at the villain. Are you ready? Let's do this, senpai. Oh, make a president's duties. Oh. Class is over. See ya. The substitute teacher rushed out of the room. Since President Mike was suspended, due to amplifying profanities all over the school, they had a substitute instructor come in. He was a lazy guy with a quirk that let him cancel all other quirks in a certain range. That was one of the best classes I've had my whole life. Kaminari yelled as he stood up. Shut up, his seatmate Kyuka kicked him, forcing him back into his seat. All he did was assign self-study. IT is unacceptable. For a teacher at this prestigious school to simply walk in and assign self-study. Ida screamed in a fiery rage that rivaled Katsuki's. Calm down. Mom's Yayazoru told Ida, if you didn't like the lesson that much, why didn't you tell him? I do not have authority to question the teacher's teaching method. That responsibility only belongs to the class president. Ida rounded on Mina, who was happily napping at her desk. President. What? What happened? Mina shot up like a bullet, her acid quirk activating on reflex, dissolving a bit of her desk. Ayo. What have you done? Ida stared at the desk in horror. Our beloved seniors used these desks. Sandy of Ida Majidonafam. You know. I haven't actually met any of our seniors yet. Ida ignored Ochako's comment. I must apologize immediately. He ran out the door. No running in the hallways. Mina called out. Curses. Class 1A heard Ida call from down the hall. Well, I feel like I fulfilled my duty as class president today. Mina used her quirk to make it look like she wiped sweat from her brow. The acid fell and left another mark on her desk. Izuku's feet hit the ground and he immediately took in his surroundings. He was standing in a city that was being consumed by flames within a circle of nameless villains. This must be the conflagration zone. From the looks of it, yeah, said Kaminari, who had been standing next to him, had been pulled into the same portal. Just you and me? Izuku asked, keeping a close eye on the villains surrounding them. Seems like it. Let's do this. Kaminari raised his fist for a fist bump only to have it knocked away by a floating glove. You guys are so mean. I'm here too. Apparently Turo Hagakure had also made it into the conflagration zone. And from the looks of it, she was waving her arms around angrily. Hagakure-san. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize you were there. It's fine. Let's just beat these guys. Tura Hagakure was one of the 6 girls of Class 1A. She also happened to be perpetually invisible. Don't look down us, brats. A villain with tusks coming out of his mouth charged at Izuku. Izuku, using his reflexes along with All Might's self-defense training, used his quirk and pulled the villain closer than the villain was prepared for and grabbed him by the tusk. He then drove his weight into the tusk, driving it into the ground, rendering the villain immobile. Don't underestimate these kids, they're training at Yui. Another, smarter, villain told the others. Ready? Izuku asked Turo and Denki. Well. I can't exactly use my quirk without hurting you guys. Kaminari gave them a thumbs up, so yeah. Good luck fighting the villains. Turo may have been nodding. I'm also very weak when it comes to fighting. But I believe in you. What? I can't fight this many villains by myself. Izuku yelled hopelessly. Fight. Turo yelled more encouragement, but judging by the sound of her voice and the discarded gloves and boots, she was sneaking away. Hagakure-san. Izuku grabbed the invisible girl, luckily on her shoulder, or not so luckily, depending on how you think about it. I've got a plan. But I need you to help out. Fine. She turned to face them. What is this plan? Die. An explosion blew a villain into a wall and covered him with rubble. Look out. Bakugo-Katsuki raised his hand and blew up the villain who was trying to drop down from the roof on him. The villain was sent through the roof. Shut up! Don't tell me how to fight! Katsuki yelled at Mina. I'm just trying to help. Mina suppressed her urge to compliment his reflexes. What if he got you? Katsuki, in response, shot towards her and made an explosive palm strike right next to her head. What the? He wouldn't have, so pay attention, raccoon eyes. Katsuki turned back around and got ready for the next wave of villains. Mina glanced behind her and saw the villain that was about to attack her, with a huge burn mark across his face. If it were a normal person she would have thanked them, but Katsuki was not normal. Quit calling me raccoon eyes. Meine Meismana, Andy should be calling president. What was hot? I'll call you whatever I want, Pinky. Pinky. That's practically racism. Does that even matter by this point? I'm Japanese, but I have blonde hair and red eyes. Are you sure you are Japanese? What the hell? Of course I am. The villains watched the two bicker. What the heck is wrong with them? Tokoyami? Hantashiro asked nervously. He and Fumikage Tokoyami, and had been dropped off in the downpour zone. The only problem is that it was near pitch black in there. Fumicage's quirk, Dark Shadow, was significantly stronger in the low lighting, but it was a bit too strong. Run! Run away! Tokoyami yelled in fear. His Dark Shadow quirk quickly consuming his body. I can't control it. Tokoyami! Shiro called out, we can help you. Run! Dark Shadow had lost interest in the weak villains. He swung his fist at Shiro. Eclat! A sparkly blue light shot out and pierced Dark Shadow's fist. You appear to be in a bit of a pinch. Need me to lend a hand? Mineta Minoru was in pain. He was surrounded by villains, all by himself, and not a single one of them was a girl. Why are there no girls in my group? He screamed to the sky. He was in the landslide zone. What the heck, Kirojiri? One of the villains yelled. Why did he send one kid? Who knows, he may be the strongest in the group. Yeah right, let's just beat him up and go get All Might. Can we really beat All Might Dash? Kaya. Momo. Your clothes. Your clothes. Mineta turned to where the sound came from. The mountain zone. Hey guys. There's something I really want to see over in the mountain zone. He turned to face the villains, his eyes bloodshot. Will you kindly get out of the way? Like hell we will. Mineta disappeared in a burst of speed that no one knew he had. He dashed past every villain, sticking one of his pop-off balls on their faces, arms, and legs. What the heck? It won't come off. The villains tried prying off the balls, but they only got their hands stuck to them. Those are explosive balls. If I snap my fingers, Mineta readied his fingers to snap, they'll blow up. What? No. Please no. You put it on my face. No, this can't be happening. Mineta grinned. Well, I'm a hero in training, and I don't want a blood on my hands. So I'll give you a choice. The villains stopped crying and looked up hopefully. If you guys let me out of here into the mountain zone, I'll let you live. Yes. The villains jumped at the chance. Yes, we'll let you go. Please don't hurt us. Humph. Very well, I shall allow you to live. Mineta walked out of the landslide zone without a scratch on him, now to help out at the mountain zone. He ran towards the mountain zone, his nose already bleeding. Jiru, Ochako, and Momo had all been teleported to the mountain zone. They had landed and then they were attacked. How's that plan coming along? Jiru asked anxiously as she knocked back a couple villains with an amplified sound wave. Jiru's quirk allows her to manipulate the elongated micropins coming from her earlobes. They are very versatile, allow her to hear many things, and can project her explosively loud heartbeats into things. Her hero costume was designed in a certain way to amplify the heartbeats even more. Just a little bit longer. Uraraka-san. Here. Momo tossed Ochako a metal club. Momo's quirk allows her to create anything from her body fat. She can only accomplish this with a deep understanding of the thing she is creating. It's kinda like alchemy. Thanks. Ochako tossed it up into the air. I can't hold them much longer. Jairu yelled at her two teammates. I'm ready. Momo yelled. Ochako and Jairu got closer to Momo. But they were still surrounded by villains. Now. Momo yelled as she created a sturdy metal table over them. Got it. Ochako put her fingers together and released all 30 of the clubs that she had been holding above their heads. Needless to say, they were very heavy. Die. Surprisingly enough, the person who yelled the death threat was none other than Izuku Midoriya. He raised his hands and sped himself towards one of the villains in the circle around him. Using the extra momentum, he drove a solid kick into the villain's face, knocking him back into a burning building. Ugh. Izuku dropped his act. I didn't mean to kick him into the fire. Denki called out to him, what the heck, man? We are literally in the middle of a fight with our lives on the line. You don't have the time to be worrying about the villains. I know, but dash. You little brat. The villain that Izuku had kicked into the building came running back, cover in scales. What the dash? See? Kaminari said, he's fine. The scale-covered villain raised a clawed hand and swiped at Izuku's face. Izuku leaned backwards to avoid it, keeping his balance by running his quirk through his feet. His suit was designed with special tubes running from his hands to his feet so that he could create a vacuum while his hands were balled up into fists, effectively suctioning him to the ground. Izuku then did a back handspring, kicking the villain in the jaw, knocking him out cold. Darn it, they just keep coming. He complained as he knocked out another villain. Help out a bit, Kaminari-san. Kaminari stared at Izuku in shock. Of course I can't. I don't know how a nerd like you can be so athletic, but I am a regular nerd. I don't have your stupid strength or ridiculous flexibility. I still need you help. Izuku yelled as he quickly avoided a fireball shot from a villain's nose, a very disgusting quirk. Midoriya-kun. Turu's voice came out of nowhere. It's done. Kaminari-san. Now. Denki looked at what Turo had set up and grinned. No hard feelings if I hit you guys, right? Don't worry about it. Izuku replied. Well. Might as well let it all out. Kaminari sent forward a huge shockwave that all traveled straight in front of him. What the heck? The one villain who avoided the blast yelled, they were just messing with us. How is he so strong? Toro knocked out the villain with a brick, he. We're safe, all thanks to me. Izuku fell to the ground exhausted. Thank you, Hagakure-san. You really saved us. No problem. Wait, Kaminari walked past them with 2 thumbs up. What's up with him? Turo asked. Ah, you see. Kaminari's quirk allows him to discharge electricity from his body, but if he goes overboard, he short-circuits his brain. He also can't control the direction of the electricity. Oh. Is that why you had me set that up? Turo asked. Hagakure-san, I can't tell what you're doing without your gloves on. Sorry. Is that why you had me put up the metal fence? Yup. Izuku got up and brushed himself off. Those wires you picked up from the fallen telephone poles were used as lightning rods to attract Kaminari-san's power. That way, he can unleash the lightning without hitting us. Ooh, smart. Albeit a little simple. Izuku scratched the back of his neck, he. That's a very good way to put it. Anyways, we need to see if any of the others need help. Sure. Let's go. Turo probably stood up or nodded, but without her gloves and boots on it was impossible to tell. Way. Momo. Jiro yelled in fear, cover up. You don't want all these perverted villains staring at you. Kyuka-san. They're all knocked out. Surely enough, every single one of the villains were unconsciousness. Well, you should still cover up. Jairu took off the black jacket that was a part of her hero costume, and cover up Momo's ruined hero costume, along with her more private areas. Thank you, Kyuka-san. But I can just make a new one. Momo protested. Do you girls really have time to be arguing about fashion? A cold voice asked them. They both turned and saw a new villain who kicked both of them away and grabbed Ochako by her hair. The zero-gravity quirk user was too nauseous to fight back. But you three really did a number on my comrades. Why don't you tell me what you did? The villain was a tall man with a skull mask on, but from the look in his eyes, Jairu and Momo could tell he was a killer. And why exactly should we tell you? Jairu asked as she snuck her ear jack down her leg. I'd stop if I were you. The villain discharged some electricity from his hand. You're not in a position to be arguing against me. TCH. Jairu retracted her ear jack. And you too, Missy. Put down the sword. Darn it. Momo set down her weapon. Honestly, you two are naive, thinking I wouldn't notice such simple tricks. The villain was suddenly hit in the back of the head with what felt like a rock. Are you girls okay? Izuku Kirishima had arrived. Kirishima-san. Momo said in surprise. Don't look over here. Jairu stood in front of Momo, blocking her from Izuku's eyes. What? I would never. That kind of behavior isn't manly at all. Where is Yayazoro? Mineta had also arrived. Anyways. Ochako had recovered slightly. We should head back to the central plaza, that's where everyone will be. Speaking of which, where did you come from, Izuku-kun? Me? Izuku asked. I was at the shipwreck zone, but Todoroki froze the entire lake, so that place is already taken care of. Very well. Momo had finished recreating her outfit, then let's all go see if we can help at the central plaza. Kurohige had been quickly overwhelmed by the two heroes. He was now hanging from the dome that covered USJ. Darn it. I didn't think he'd be this strong. Eraserhead was staring at the villain to prevent him from escaping. I really hate villains like you. I can't take my eyes off you for 1 second or you'll break free. Kurohige sighed. You really don't have the time to be restraining me. Your beloved students in junior are probably about to be killed. Why do you say that? Because they can't stand up against strength that rivals All Might himself. Kurohige's eyes gave away his mirth. Eraserhead glared at Kurohige. What do you mean by rivals All Might? Izuku, Denki, and Turo carefully made their way to the conflagration zone's exit. You know, they might not actually need our help. Denki protested. He had recovered from his initial idiot mode. I mean, it's Eraserhead we're talking about. I'm sure he can handle them by himself. Eraserhead is better at surprise attacks and sudden captures. He won't be as strong in a large battle. Izuku reasoned. Yeah. And if we beat these villains, I'm sure we can be a little bit of help, right? Turo said happily. But Izuku did most of the fighting. Denki's comment went unheard. Izuku paused and placed his hand on his temple. What is it, Midoriya-kun? Turu's voice asked in concern. Is it your spider sense tingling? No, I just may have used my quirk a bit too much in the last fight. I have a small headache, nothing to worry about. Anyways, let's just get this over. Denki stopped as soon as he was able to see the central plaza. It was a hellscape. Kirishima was lying in a crater, blood pouring from his head. Todoroki was lying on the ground, his entire right side encased in ice. Mineta had blood pouring out of his forehead. Momo, Kyuka, and Ochako were all standing in front of a monstrous beast. It was a black muscular monster with a bird-like face and an exposed brain. While there were a lot of strange-looking people due to their quirks, the look in the monster's eyes were far from human. It had the look of an insane creature. Tamura was standing a bit to the side with a DS, Numu. Finish them off. The beast named Numu let out a screech and raised his fist to crush the Yui students. If you were to ask Izuku what happened after that, he wouldn't be able to tell you. He'd most likely say that he heard someone screaming in rage, desperation, and fear. After saying that, he would probably remember the unearthly scream was coming from his own throat. Get away from them! Hysterical strength, a phenomenon in which a regular human accomplishes a feat that would normally be impossible. Whether it be someone having a sudden burst of speed to defend from an incoming frisbee, or a mother lifting a car to save her child pinned under it. While never truly documented due to the rarity of such an occurrence, scientists have proposed theories on how such a phenomenon may occur. Many scientists believe that a human is never actually using 100% of their strength. This can be shown by cases of people touching a live wire and having their hand clamped down on it due to the electricity making them lose control of their muscles. But to create a scenario where a human could have access to more than the small percent of muscles that they usually control, there would need to be an outside force. That force would be adrenaline and noradrenaline. The hormones that create a state of fight or flight have been documented to raise heart rates, dilate pupils, increase respiration, slow digestion, and allow muscles to contract more than they usually would. It would be theoretically possible for one to access this state if they are experiencing adrenaline. For instance, if the person happens to be jumpy, nervous, or in some way filled with fear for themselves or for others. Bringing it back to the universe in which this story takes place. Quirks are merely an extension of one's body, a muscle, so going by this theory, in a scenario in which one has adrenaline pumping through their body for one reason or another, it would be possible for them and their quirk to go into overdrive mode. And with that trivia aside, back to the story. Ochako took a step back. Her feet gave way, making her fall on the concrete ground. The beast in front of her could in no way be considered human. She closed her eyes as the monster picked her up by her wrist. She felt a couple of her bones break. Then she heard it. A scream. Get away from them! Izuku's voice pierced the air. He came flying in at an unbelievable speed, punching the monster right in the face. Crack! There was a sickening snapping noise as Izuku's entire body weight transferred into his right arm. The beast, Numu, stood unfazed by the punch that managed to shatter Izuku's arm. Numu knocked Izuku away like he was batting away a fly. I'm not done yet! Izuku yelled as he went flying back with his quirk. His broken arm dangled behind him as he struck out with his left arm. Snap! Now that one was in shards too. Ochako noticed that her hair was floating and pointing towards Izuku. What's going on? She thought. Rawawuff! Izuku screamed as everything began moving towards him. His quirk was going into overdrive. Numu let out a scream of annoyance and punched Izuku. The green-haired boy was knocked away. He fell and rolled across the ground, garnering several bruises and gashes. Numu turned away from the battered boy and looked back at Ochako. Kill her already, Numu! Tamura commanded, not looking up from his game. Numu raised his fist. Not done yet. Izuku raised his broken right arm, the adrenaline nullifying the pain. Using his left hand to root himself on the ground and his right to restrain Numu. The power from his quirk began dragging the beast towards him. Numu's abilities allowed him to absorb shocks in forms of physical attacks. But it did nothing against pulling forces. Or electricity. I can't let you steal all the cool parts, CANI? Denki jumped in from behind Numu, grabbing him in a headlock. Let's see how you do against all of my power. The sound that came out of Numu's mouth was indescribable. It sounded like a wounded eagle dying. Denki! Let go! Izuku yelled over the screech. Denki's question was abruptly stopped by Numu grabbing him and throwing him across the room. Denki! Take that! Tura's voice came out of nowhere. She stabbed him with a sword that she must have picked up from Momo. Numu spun around and punched her. Turu. Izuku cried out, why? Why do you keep hurting my friends? Kill him. Tamura said emotionlessly. I heard this thing was made to fight All Might. A calm friendly voice spoke through the chaos. What? Tamura looked up from his game. But? You really shouldn't make something for a specific task, then try to make it do other things. The amiable voice was starting to waver. Who are you? Tamura asked angrily. Me? I'm a teacher. And I'm also a hero. And you? Hurt my students. Number 13's voice broke apart, revealing the sea of wrath bubbling inside of him. He activated his quirk with all 10 of his fingers. What he said was true. Numu was made specifically for battling All Might. It was not prepared to fight a completely different quirk. Numu! Tamura screamed as he waited for his game to save. The beast was trapped between number 13's black hole and Izuku's pull. Numu's regeneration wasn't strong enough to counteract number 13's deconstructing. The beast, who was still stunned by Denki's shock, was quickly destroyed. Thank you for helping Midoriya. Number 13 said kindly, now let the pros handle the rest. He turned to the other villain, now. What should I do with you? You've got to be kidding me. Numu was beaten by a pitiful mob and a mini-boss? What the heck? Tamura began scratching his neck. I guess I better find my escape rope. But first off. Tamura stretched and disappeared in a blur of speed. I should grind a few levels. The kindly astronaut's back was suddenly turned into dust by Tamura's quirk as Tamura appeared behind him. Number 13. Tamura was having a bad day. His plan to kill All Might was falling apart. Kurogiri had left him alone in the middle of a dungeon, and most importantly, his game had a corrupt save file and he was still trying to make up for the lost progress. All in all, it was a pretty bad day. So he felt like venting. Ugh. Now I have to take on this monster party without Kurogiri's support. Tamura thought to himself, maybe I should call in my summons. Oh wait. I used all of those dealing with the mobs, and they still weren't enough. Man, today is the worst. Tamura sighed. Oh wait. I may be able to beat all of them if Kurogiri keeps the other mini-boss occupied. Tamura turned to Izuku. I may not be able to beat All Might. But I do think I can ruin his pride as a teacher. Die. Katsuki jumped in and nearly blew up Tamura's head. Seriously? Another one? Tamura asked. Shut up, you weak mob. Katsuki yelled. Weak mob. Tamura was appalled. Katsuki. You can't go around the place calling people mobs. Mina came running up, and don't just leave me like that. Quit bossing me around. Katsuki yelled at her. Why are you always yelling? I'll do whatever I want. Tamura used their argument as an opening to attack Katsuki. Shoot. Due to his hack-level reflexes, Katsuki managed to mostly avoid the attack, but he was still grazed. My gauntlet. The gauntlet that stored Katsuki's sweat in order to unleash huge explosions crumbled away into dust. Listen up. Tamura got Katsuki's attention. I'm pretty tired and I don't feel like fighting. How about we settle this peacefully? Never. Wait. Mina interrupted him. Let's hear him out. She looked around. Izuku, number 13, Kirishima. A lot on their side needed medical attention as quickly as possible. Fine. Katsuki might have been prone to anger, but he wasn't an idiot, and if they fought, some of Class 1A could get even more hurt than they already are. Good. How about we settle this with a Nokemon battle? Tamura asked, pulling out his DS. What? A video GA dash. Deal. Katsuki readily agreed, pulling out a DS of his own. You had that in your hero costume? Mina asked in surprise. Shut up. I get bored whenever people are fighting and I have to watch. Katsuki angrily replied, turning the device on. They're still against school rules. Who cares? I care. I'm the president. What are the stakes? Tamura asked, ignoring the screaming pink president. When I win, you have to surrender and be arrested. Deal. When I win, you have to join the villains' alliance. Deal. Katsuki. There's no way you can trust him. It's just a bet made over video games. What was hot? Katsuki and Tamura yelled at her. I never go back on a promise made over video games. And for your information, I could kill half of you slimes before the other pro heroes arrive. Tamura glared at Mina, so shut up, tutorial NPC. Yes. Mina took a step back and watched quietly. Let's go. Katsuki growled as Tamura took out his Charizard. What the heck, man? How the hell did you beat my Charizard with a Magikarp? Well, you see, Kurogiri appeared in front of them. Tamura, we must be leaving. Hold on, I'm in the middle of a match. Tamura responded without looking up. Tamura. Kurogiri's voice grew more desperate. Just give me a minute. Darn it. Aizawa thought as he ran towards the central plaza. I didn't realize the other guy was still awake. The villain with the imposter quirk had woken back up and attacked him from behind. It was obviously not enough to hurt him, but it was distracting enough to give Kurogiri a second to escape. Kurogiri then helped the imposter quirk villain escape back to their base, and he warped over to Tamura. You're not getting away. Eraserhead skidded to a stop and looked at the scene ahead of him. Wait. I'm about to win this. Tamura was desperately pushing buttons on his DS as Kurogiri dragged him into a warp gate. Tamura wenied Togo. No. Kurogiri and Tamura escaped, leaving Class 1A, number 13 and Eraserhead all alone. Quickly. Eraserhead organized the students. Yayazoro, make 4 stretchers. Uraraka, can you still use your quirk with your wrist? Yes, I can still move. Ochako said, lifting her unbroken hand. Good, pick up Todoroki, Kirishima, Midoriya, Hagakure, Kaminari, and number 13. We need to bring them to the entrance. The class, organized by Aizawa, regrouped and brought the injured to the entrance. Besides the 6 on stretchers, only Mineta, Ochako, and Yuga were injured. Mineta had overused his quirk, Ochako had a broken wrist, and Yuga had a stomachache from holding back Fumikage, who regained control after making it into the light. Aizawa treated Ijiru, Denki, and Shudo's injuries and made splints for Izuku. Number 13 was too injured for him to help, but he was in no immediate danger and could wait for treatment at the school hospital wing. The main issue was Turo. The class tried to patch up the wounds that were still bleeding, but it was hard to tell with an invisible patient. You all did a wonderful job today. I'm especially proud of Kirishima, Minoru, Todoroki, Kaminari, Hagakure, and Midoriya, who all got injured fighting against the beast, Numu. Sure. No problem. It was the manly thing to do. Katsuki grumbled slightly. Don't worry, Bakugu. Aizawa pulled him aside. You did well, distracting the villain from injuring your allies. What are you talking about? I just wanted to play a round of Nokemon. Katsuki said as he turned away. All right, everyone. We're going to be going back to the main campus. I want someone to be watching Hagakure to make sure her Bonda dash. It's okay. Because I am here. All Might burst into USJ. All Might. You're too late. The class began yelling complaints at the number 1 hero. All Might ended up helping with the cleanup afterwards.